a house deficit of 22 million units in Nigeria, which is very interesting enough. The third point there is Nigeria has a home ownership of 25%, which is less than Turkey's 58% and Indonesia's 84%. South Africa has a close 56%, but what that's telling you is that Nigeria is below average and a lot of investments to be done there. The most expensive properties are concentrated in two cities, that's Lagos and Abuja. The cheapest lands are concentrated in North, in states like Katsina, Jigawa, and Bauchi. You can buy a plot of land for as low as 70,000 naira in certain locations there. Point number 6, FCT has the highest house vacancy rates, with areas like Katampe and Apo leading the stats, while in Lagos, places like Ikoyi, Victoria Island, and Lekki are top frontliners. Point number 7, Victoria Island is Lagos' most expensive location for retail. On the average, retail rents in Victoria Island cost about 81,000 naira per square meter. That's a lot of money by any stretch. Point number 8, GTEX Holding is the first real estate firm in Africa to start the fractional ownership model through GVest. So with that comes to the end of my 8 facts about the real estate. Thank you for listening. We can proceed to the main course of today. I'll start by giving you a brief introduction. Foundations provide support for structures. I mean, you read about foundations in different aspects. If it's structures, if it's any possibility, I'm sure you've come across foundations. But foundations in the construction industry provide support for structures, transferring their load to layers of soil or rock that have sufficient bearing capacity and suitable settlement characteristics to support them. There are a very wide range of foundation types suitable for different applications and depending on concentration, short as the nature of the load requiring support, which means that from the definition, we know that the foundation transfers the load from the superstructure. The superstructure is what you can see, is the visible part of the building. And then it transfers the load that are coming from the superstructure into the soil. Now, the nature of the load requiring support, what kind of load are you supporting? Is it live load? Live load can mean the load of your fridge, the load of your tables, the load of your furniture, the occupancy rate, the number of people that the building has been designed for. And dead load simply refers to the load of the structural elements, the self-weight of the building, the self-weight of elements like the columns, the beams, and the slab. So the nature of the load that is required to support, how heavy that load is. If you are dealing with a single residential unit, a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, the load compared to a high-rise is different. So the nature of the load requiring support is a determining factor of the type of foundation to be used. Then we have to talk about ground conditions. What are the ground conditions? Are you in a stable area? Is the land solid? Is it a swampy area? So these two highlighted instances can determine the type of foundation that can be selected in that area. Now you have to talk about the presence of water table. Some areas like Ogudu, like Lekki, those areas have high water table. So it's a determining factor to decide the type of foundation that can be used in those areas. And also we have to talk about space availability. How much space do you have? Are you sharing a boundary with an existing neighbor? Is the neighbor already having an existing property? So you don't want to start excavation and then you're encroaching into your neighbor's real estate. So that is also a determining factor of the type of foundation to be introduced in your site. Then we have to talk about accessibility. How accessible is your land? Do I have to drive a boat, or a canoe to access your land? Is your land dry enough? Those are also determining factors. Now we talk about the last point there, the sensitivity to noise and vibration. Where is your land located? Where is your property located? Is it located to a rail station? Is it located to an airport? The noise and the vibration generated from these amenities is also a determining factor of the type of land that can be selected, the type of foundation, sorry, that can be selected. So the next slide, we'll be talking about whether constructing a single family home or skyscrapers or superstructure, choosing the proper foundation is essential. The foundation of any building serves two main purposes. Like I said earlier, the purpose of the foundation is to distribute the weight from the load-bearing walls, from the load-bearing columns, the beams, the slabs, to the soil or bedrock beneath, and then it keeps the groundwater or the soil moisture out of your home. So you don't want, when you have already built your structure and then water is coming inside, water is ingressing to your room. So the foundation acts as a stopping factor for that. And also you have to talk about the topography. Topography simply means what are the features of your land? How high is the land? How low is the land? What are the high points and the low points of the land? Then you talk about geology. Geology is the formation of the land. Over the years, what are the underlying factors in the land? What are the underlying layers in the land? How much granite is accumulated? How much sharp sand? How much peat? The geography has to deal with the formation of that land, the structure of the land. And then the pedology simply refers to the study of the soil, the kind of soil that is available in that area. Now, on your construction site, in addition to the size of your building and other factors, like the type of construction, we determine the type of foundations that's appropriate for your building. What kind of method you want to use to execute the construction, the building that you're expecting. Is it an high rise? Is it a low rise? Is it just a single bungalow unit? These are factors that can determine the type of foundation that can be implemented on the site. So we'll go to the next slide there, where we have to briefly talk about the types of foundation. So very broadly, foundations can be categorized into two types. We have the shallow type and we have the deep type of foundation. If you ask me, what are the shallow types of foundation? According to the name, shallow, it means something not so deep, surface level, superficial level. The shallow foundations are commonly used for smaller structure, for smaller projects. And when the top layer of the soil can adequately handle the distribution of the weight, like I said in the initial starting of the slide, the foundation wants to transfer the weight of the building to very, very good soil beneath the ground. So to determine if a foundation is shallow, you have to pay attention to the soil. How good is the soil? And that is when you start talking about doing soil testing, doing your borehole testing, doing your CPT, which stands for cone penetrometer test. So all these tests are supposed to give you the information of the soil. It's meant to give you, there's a factor there you're looking for. You're looking for the soil bearing capacity. Now, this soil bearing capacity is able to tell you how solid the ground is, how much load the ground can take. Now, beyond this shallow foundation, we have the deep foundation. Now, if you are considering a deep foundation, there are two things you have to have in mind. How much load are you taking? Are you taking very heavy loads? Loads from high structures, loads from skyscrapers. We are talking about multiple levels of floors. Those we build up to very significant loads. Now, also, we are talking about how stable the soil is. If you are trying to build in a swampy area where maybe for another 3 meters, 4 meters below the ground, you don't have any good soil. So your main target is to carry that load down to the bedrock, for structural integrity. That is when you talk about deep foundations. That is when you consider deep foundations for your design. And moving forward, I would like to give examples of the types of foundations, shallow foundations we have. We have the raft foundation, otherwise known as the mat foundation. We also have the pad foundation, which is much more predominant in this part of the country. We have the combined pad foundation, we have the strip foundation, and then we have a variation of the strip foundation, sorry, a variation of the pad foundation, which is called the strap foundation. Now, examples of deep foundation, there are several foundations, but to try and limit the complexity of that kind of deep foundation, we'll only be talking about two types of foundation, which is the pile foundation and the caisson foundation. Moving
Sorry, I think we lost you for a few seconds, Mr. John.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back.
Sorry, let me come back. Yeah,
okay.
Let's come back. So before the break in transmission, I stopped at the definition of math foundation. So about math foundation or raft foundation, it has to do with spreading the weight of the structure, the weight of the building, the visible part of the building, to an entire area under the soil. So how that is significant than the pad foundation, which I will talk about very, very soon, is that the raft foundation is able to spread the load. Instead of acting at a concentrated point, spreads the load evenly across the bar. If there is a location in the soil where there's a bad soil, and then alternatively there's a good soil. So instead of concentrating the load at a single point, the raft is able to spread. Can you hear me now? Am I loud? Am I audible?
Yeah. Okay. Yes, you are. Go ahead, please.
So those are the attributes of a raft foundation. So a raft foundation takes full advantage of the surface area where the building will be erected, essentially using the basement as the entire load-bearing foundation.
But we just share your screen again.
Okay. That's coming up.
Okay.
Okay. So the entire load-bearing foundation, using the basement, as the entire load-bearing foundation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
So mud foundations are often used when the soil is loose. Like I said earlier, the soil is loose at some point and weak and requires the weight to be distributed evenly. So that is when you start using the advantage of, that is when you start enjoying the advantage of a raft foundation. So for a raft foundation are also used when the basement is feasible and the pillars or the columns are spaced, closed together. That means your columns are like the pillars in a building. They are meant to support each element of the building, like the beams, like the slab. That's the main job of the column. Now, when your columns are closely packed together, maybe you have like very very limited spaces between these columns. Then, according to the text here, the raft foundation will work efficiently enough. It is often referred to as a raft foundation because the basement foundation is submerged in the soil, like the hull of a raft in water. So the next slide here will show you a typical example of how this raft foundation is being constructed. And you can see here on the surface, the raft is being, it's spread across a significant area. The reinforcement coming here serves the purpose of the column. They're meant to strengthen the columns. And for a raft, you can have a solid mat. You just do a solid concrete, or you can have them in beams. You can break them up in beams and slab connections. So I'll quickly move into the pad foundation. The pad foundation is one of the most common types of shallow foundation. It is the individual footing. It might even be what comes to mind when you think of a foundation. Like generally, when you talk about foundation, most of you will say, okay, it's a pad foundation. That's what most people are used to in this country. So individual or isolated spread footings are typically square. They can come in square shapes. They can come in rectangular shapes, or even a geometric frustrum means that it can be irregular. You understand? You can have a high point here, a low point here, but the entirety of that of the pad is just to have a solid slab, carrying the columns. So the load is being directed from the superstructure down to the pad foundation and into the soil. So it goes on to say the width of the individual footing depends on the weight that should be carried and the bearable capacity of the soil. In the beginning of this lecture, I was able to explain to you what a bearing capacity is. The bearing capacity is the strength of the soil. It's how much load the soil can carry. It can come in 100, it can take up to 100 kilonewtons per square meters. It can take up to 120 kilonewtons per square meters. It can take to 300 kilonewtons per square meters, depending on the location and depending on the geology of the soil. Now, a variation to a pad foundation is what you call a combined foundation. What a combined foundation, like you can see here, is it means that two columns that are closely linked together can be supported on the same pad. A combined footing is very similar to an individual footing, except one base shares the weight of two pillars or columns that are close enough together to warrant a shared foundation. So if you have two columns spaced together and you don't want to create singular pads for each of the columns, the ideal thing to do is to combine both pads, and that is what this presentation here is trying to say. If you go further, you will see an example of what a pad foundation looks like. I'm sure this is what you see generally when you go to construction sites. This is what you get to see. This one is showing a picture of a combined pad base. At different locations, you are trying to combine both pillars together under a solid pad. So let's move on to other types of foundation. So there is the strip foundation. I'll quickly talk on the strip foundation. For a strip foundation, you are looking at supporting a load-bearing wall. This is applicable to bungalows, basically buildings that are not going above 1 story. You want to support them on a strip foundation, which is cost-effective. Wall footing is also known as continuous footing. This type is used to distribute loads to structural or non-structural load-bearing walls. It means there are some walls that are structural. It means that those walls there are acting as a load-bearing wall. If you are to break those walls, something up might come down. It means that it will lead to demolition in another part of the building. And then they have non-load-bearing walls, which are non-structural load-bearing walls. This kind of walls are what are really common in most buildings. Means that if you demolish these walls, only the wall will be affected. No other structural elements will be affected. So what the text is trying to say is that this type is used to distribute loads of structural or non-structural load-bearing walls to the ground in such a way that the load-bearing limit of the soil isn't outperformed. So you are trying to work within the limits of the soil load bearing capacity. Now, it runs along the direction of the wall. The width of the wall foundation is usually 2 to 3 times the width of the wall. It means that if your wall is this much, the width of the strip has to be 3 times the size of the wall. As simple as that is what you see in your regular bungalow units, your not so high structures, you can see this type. And you have to take, consideration what the soil bearing capacity of that soil is telling. If you don't have a good soil bearing capacity, you have something that is as low as 10 or 20, you shouldn't try and use this type of foundation because the effect can be disastrous. A variation of the pad foundation is what you call the strap foundation. The strap footings are similar to combined footings. Reasons for considering or choosing footings are identical to the combined ones. In strap footing, the foundation under the column is built individually and connected with a strap beam. Generally, when the edge of the footing cannot be extended beyond the property line, and the exterior footing is connected by a strap beam with interior footing. So sorry, let me read that again. The exterior footing is connected by a strap beam with interior footing. So what this type of foundation is telling is, for instance, you want to build a foundation and you have a neighbor with an existing property. And the way the building has been designed is you have to share boundary with that neighbor. And when you try to do your foundation, you try to centralize the foundation like the regular pad footing. You realize that some part of the pad is, you are ingressing into your neighbor's property. He's not going to give you the right to build on his property because it's against the law. So what you can do is you can put your column on the edge of the beam, or on the edge of the slab, which is what this picture is showing here. You can put your column on the edge of the slab and connect that column with a beam to the other interior column. Now, the difference between this type of foundation and the regular pad foundation is that there is no beam present. You don't have a beam present between those columns. But for a regular pad footing, or a combined pad footing, for a strap footing, I mean to say, there is a presence of a beam connecting both columns together. So, like I said earlier, you can only use this kind of foundation when you are constrained with space, when you don't have the space required to build on. So let's go to pictures. These are examples of what we are talking about. Now you can see here that this guy here is trying to build on a fence, close to the fence. So not to affect what is already existing, he has opted for a strap foundation, like we just explained earlier. So when you have space issue, when you don't want to start calling your neighbor and telling him, please, can I use some part of your land? Can I do this? Can I do that? You can use the idea of a strap footing. I see a lot of people are raising hands, but let me come to the end of the slide. Then I'll opt for questions. Thank you. So pile foundation. Yes, this is the cost intensive, should I say cost intensive kind of foundation where you have to consider it when you are building a high-rise structure, or when you have a very bad type of land. We did a soil test on one of our lands and realized that there is no good soil until maybe like 23 meters to 24 meters. So we have no choice but to adopt the pile type of foundation. So the text is simply saying that most common among the deep foundation category is the pile, end-bearing and friction piles. Both consist of a boring large sturdy column deep into the ground. So the idea about the pile foundation is the pile foundation takes the load from the building and directs it into the soil with the most and with the very, very good soil bearing capacity. Sometimes it might even be down to the rock because we have bedrocks underneath the earth. So that is the job of the pile. The pile directly takes the load and transmits it down to the bedrock of the environment or of the soil. So piles are driven deep into the earth to either reach a layer of solid bedrock, which are known as end-bearing piles, or use surface area friction to maintain load-bearing structural integrity. This type of piles are referred to as friction piles. So for a end-bearing piles, you have to bore the piles manually. That's when you see they manually drill the pile down to the required depth. Now, for a friction type of pile, that is when you start using your pile drivers. You start consulting big construction companies like Ellerland, Julius Berger to start using their pile drivers to drill in the piles down to the required depth. It can be 20 meters, it can be 30 meters, it can be 40, it can be whatever meters as far as you are setting. And this has to do with a lot of analysis and calculation, where the structural engineer has to take, reference from the soil test and has to do some computation, and then the geological engineer also has to come into play in this case. And with both guys working hand in hand, they are able to determine the diameter of the pile to be used and how deep the pile is meant to go. Then we have another variation of the pile foundation. This is known as the Kaizen foundation. A Kaizen foundation is most often used in the construction of a bridge. I know most people have seen bridges. Whether you're going to work, whether you're traveling, whether you're making any trip, you must have driven over a bridge before. The first thing you see supporting the bridge is huge piles. Those huge piles are not called piles, they are called piers. Depending on the type of soil available in that terrain. Like for instance, if you are building over a riverine area, you have to use this type of foundation, which are known as the Kaizen foundation. They are like referred to, they are like the senior brother of pile foundation. So they are like the senior brothers of Kaizen pile foundation. They are much bigger and they carry much more load. Quickly, I would like to show you an example of how a pile foundation works. You can see this building here, supported. You understand? There's no soil, right? There's no this thing there, but it's supporting. Now, this is what your pile does for you. It takes the weight of the building, the load generated from the building, from servicing and occupancy, and then the dead load, it takes it directly to where you have solid earth, solid rock or bedrock material. So this is the model at which your pile foundation works on. And the next picture here is showing a group of piles. When you have 2 or 3 more piles connected to one pile cap, this is how it is being installed. So, like here in this picture, one pile is supporting each point. In other situations, you can have 2 to 3 piles supporting any point at any time. So it purely depends on, like I said earlier, what the structural engineer has designed and then what the geological engineer has recommended. So it's a combination of both subject matter experts in this case. So, sorry. So in addition to that, we have a couple of estates that we have done our soil integrity tests. We've done our borehole tests, we've done our CPT test, and then we've gotten various information as what is required. We have the Jasper Smart City location is at Lekki, Lagos State. The soil condition is average, is good. So that is why we are using a raft foundation there. If you remember from the slide, a raft foundation is a shallow foundation, part of the family of the shallow foundation. The second one there is a burial beachfront. Location is Lekki, Lagos State. Due to how swampy this area is, and due to the soil reports gotten from that site, you can see here that we will be using a pile foundation for that location. Also, Prime Rose Farm City, Lekki, Also in Lagos State, we'll be using a power foundation there. Sapphire Water City is also another swampy area. We have decided to use a power foundation due to our soil report and other information gotten from that side. And we have White House Estate at Aton, Ogun State. That's also that area is having very good soil information there. The engineering properties of that soil is very good. And we have recommended the shallow foundation, which is the pad foundation. Likewise, Jasper, Berryford, and Berry Golf Estates, all located in Abuja and Oyo State, respectively. We have opted to use pad foundation for all of those structures there. So with that, we've come to the end of. We have slides. Yeah, with that, we've come to the end of that lecture. So
thank you so much, Engineer John. Thank you. I mean, it was just straightforward to the point and very understandable. So
yes,
we have fans. I don't know if they have questions. Please.
Okay. I'm open for questions.
I think there's noise coming from your hand, Engineer John.
Yes, I'm with you. Can you tell me?
No, the noise was quite distracting. So we have participants.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
I understand. I mean, you're dealing with a lot of noisy construction here and there, but it's fine.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So I'm okay. So
we're just waiting for questions.
If anybody has, I see here.
It's easier.
Someone is asking if you can have the slides when you are done. Yes, definitely. I'll share the slide and you can get the slides when you're done. It's not top secret.
Okay, so if you registered for this webinar, you definitely get the slides to be sent to you. But if you didn't register or your friend just shared, I think it's important you always register for any of the webinars. If you did, you definitely get the slides. So you have questions from the attendees, from Amara, from Benoit. At least a few names I can see: Chidebere, Claudine, Fogofoluwa. Questions, please. So now, why webinars like this are important is because aside we having potential clients on calls like this, which they get to understand the things we do in our different estates, and the offers we have at the moment, because at the end of this call, I'm going to share the current promo we have for our houses with you. I'm also aware that we have, our GTS and associate members, brokers, realtors on this call. When you have an understanding of, different aspects of buildings, like today, we've just shared with you different types of foundations and why a particular foundation is used in different locations. It helps you sell better because, when I started selling real estate newly, I used to hear things like raft, pile, strip and all of that, but I didn't understand what they were until I took my time to learn about them. And you can have, when you pitch to a client, sometimes you can hear questions like, okay, for that your estate, what kind of foundation will I have to do if I'm going to build a house? So you having an understanding of the difference helps you, close the clients better, helps you sell better. And also the clients can count their costs even ahead of time. So thank you so much, Engineer John. That was straightforward. And for those that joined late, you can get back to watch the replay. Like I said earlier, if you registered, you definitely get the replay link. But always make sure you join early because it's not every time we'll share our replay link with you. Sometimes you'd have to pay to access the replays of these free webinars we've put together. So send your questions. I'm not sure anyone has sent in a question yet. Okay. So that means you were very good with your estate, because if nobody was confused at any point or saying, what's the difference between fine And
Yeah, I was
it means your
actually
explanation
expecting that
was
kind of
just
question.
straightforward.
I was actually anticipating those kind of questions. That is why I tried to put pictures. You can see that there were pictures there. So even if you cannot catch what I'm saying, you
Yeah.
can see it on the slides, and that should significantly help your perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that was even why they requested for the slides anyways. But for me, if I'm a newbie and I don't understand these things, okay, someone else is asking, can we have the slide? Yes, the slide will be sent to you. I would definitely ask questions because I mean, this is not even something, except if everyone on this, on this call had a prior understanding about what foundations are. It's not something just gets to, but it's okay to have the slides if you don't have questions. So I'll just share our current, promo we have at the moment for our buildings with you. Like, it's no longer news that GTEx Homes, we are the pioneer of green and smart homes in Africa. I mean, we are blazing the trail. We are doing new things. We are looking into the future and building the kind of homes that we know would be in demand in the coming future. I mean, everyone is careful about their health. We are all concerned about the climate change and global warming. That's why we are going ahead to build green and smart homes. So in two of our estates, one in Lagos and one in Abuja, we have an offer currently running where instead of you paying 30% as an initial deposit for either at 1 or 2 bedroom, you get to pay 5 million naira as an initial deposit, and you also get the chance of spreading your payment for 18 months. I mean, we only do 12 months installment payments for our houses, and even with that 12 months, it comes at with an extra charge. I mean, because how much you buy cement today is definitely not the same amount you buy in 12 months time. So if you choose to spread payments, it comes at an extra charge, a little bit higher than when you're paying outrightly. But currently, we are giving a promo offer whereby you don't only have just 10 million naira off our 1 and 2 beds. Currently, we started the promo 2 days ago, and it's a 72 hours promo, which means you have only 24 hours to take advantage of this offer. If you're going for a 1 bedroom, instead of 51 million naira for a green and smart desk, not a bungalow, green and smart 1 bedroom green and smart duplex, either in Lagos or in Abuja, instead of getting it at the rate of 51 million off, you can also deposit 5 million naira as an initial deposit and spread the balance for 18 months. I mean, Jesus has never done this. Okay, maybe on buildings, yes. Like, this is a very sweet. You have, everybody 16 months. I mean, how cool is that? Okay, you get a 10 million naira discount off that too. I can spread payments for 18 months with 5 million naira initial deposits. So for everyone that knows anyone who is interested in this offer right now, after this call, just make sure you're dialing them right away. It is a limited promo. It is not open till forever. I mean, for this one on our 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom, we have just 24 hours to go till the end of that promo. So after that, we will roll out promo for our 3 bedroom and our 4 bedroom. Then after that, our 5 bedroom. So make sure you keep following GTEx Homes. And for all the attendees today, thank you so much. I bet you've learned something new today. And this is coming to you free, courtesy GTEx Homes, right? And thank you so much, Engineer John. It's good having you here. And I know that when we call on you next time, we'll definitely oblige, right?
Yes, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. That was so clear. Let me give you kudos. Like, the first trainer that will come on this show, and you had no question. Aside people just requesting for your slides, you broke that record. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. Next time, okay, Next week again, we'll be having another training. We'll share it to be on our social media pages. It's just an avenue for you to learn. Make sure you register and make sure you join on time. We always keep to time. I mean, Engineer John didn't even wait for me to introduce him today before I started this training. Right, so we start right on time, no African time. For those of you that joined late, you keep missing out if you keep joining late. Thank you so much for joining today. And thank you again, Engineer John. Till we see you again next week. It's bye for now. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.